Hey everybody, it is Tuesday, July 21st, and I am down in the foundation hole with a shovel, digging it out because some of the walls fell in. Let's get started. So the reason that I'm doing this, and you can already see that I've started digging, we've been putting in buckets and lifting it out and taking it out. And the whole idea is to just keep this gravel clean. Maybe I'm being paranoid, but one thing I don't think I'm being paranoid about is this sheet over here that looks like it's about to fall. That's probably 1,000 pounds of dirt there. So now, why do we need to keep the gravel clean? Well, maybe I'm being a little paranoid. Maybe it's not a big deal, and I don't expect my excavator to do this, or any excavator to do this, to take the time to do this. But the way I look at it is it's my forever home, and I'm going to control what I can control because I'm not moving, and I want to get it right. You get one shot at your foundation, and so I just want to make sure it's as good as, again, what I can control. So if you watched our previous video, I'll link that in. You saw where they put the drain pipe, the footer drain pipe, all the way around, and it ultimately goes over to the crock and that natural drain pipe that we're going to take out to daylight at some point. But so that's what's underneath this gravel. But why does it matter if we keep it clean? Well, what can happen with these clay particles is that they can get down into that footer drain and accumulate and build up over time. And what that does is it just reduces the water load that drain could ultimately handle it. And so if we got a 6 to 8 inch rainfall occurrence over a very short period of time, well, that's going to reduce the pipe's ability to remove that excess water. And so I don't want that to happen, and so I'm trying to clean out as much as I can within reason. And that leads me to another point of discussion, and that is this idea of backfill. And so I don't know what's typical. I think it probably actually varies based on your soil type, but I'm under the impression that more gravel is better and it's not going to hurt anything. And so you might be watching this and be like, well, what is backfill? What does that mean? Well, if you can imagine, and this is the reason we had to do this today, because they're going to pour this basement wall here on top of this footer, 10-foot or 10-inch basement wall, 9 foot tall. And so when they go to pour that, it's going to create this cavity here. So we'll have the soil bank and then the wall here. And so I wanted to get in here and get this cleaned out while I could, and it's easy to maneuver and get through. So we have this empty cavity here, or we will have it. And what they'll do is they'll fill it back with gravel. I've already asked my contractor if we can go ahead and take it up to, I don't know, at least here a foot above this shelf, and then maybe the last 2 feet will fill with soil, something like that. If you have some expertise, let me know. But based on what I know, I think I know too much, and that, again, that's why I'm down here, because of my background with soil science and agriculture. So I think I can speak pretty knowledgeably on this subject matter. But the reason that you want to fill this up with gravel is because if we filled it up with dirt, okay, then we've got dirt that's all the way up against our basement wall, okay, and in that dirt is a mixture of sand, silt, and clay. Here in southern Ohio, where on this property, it's a lot of clay, and clay is notorious for its shrink swell phenomenon, okay, as it gets saturated or as it dries up, okay, and it's part of the groundwater system. And so as it gets wet, it's going to get heavy, it's going to swell, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on that basement wall. And again, like we just talked about, keeping this footer drain clean, if we have soil and clay on top of it, the more we have, the more likely that footer drain is going to get filled up with clay. And we don't want that. So I have asked them to fill it up very high. Now, there's some other things that can happen too. And that is that soil, and this is where my soil physics knowledge comes out, I guess, a little bit. So if we find a little aggregate of this soil, or what you might call like a dirt clod, okay, something like that, right? And we compare it to, if we found a piece of gravel, let's break that a little bit. We get a piece of gravel that's about the same size. And I asked you, Well, which one of these has more surface area? You might be like, well, they're the same, Ryan. They might look the same, but they're not actually the same. Okay, the gravel, yeah, it's got its given surface area in that within that given volume of material. Okay, but the soil has all of this surface area within it. So the clay, an individual clay particle, is actually microscopic. You cannot see it with the naked eye. And so when you break that down and you account for all those billions of little pieces in their surface area, then you realize that clay has a lot more surface area. Well, why does that matter? Well, the reason it matters is because water adheres to surface area. And so if we filled all of this up with groundwater, or not with groundwater, if we filled all of this up with backfill soil, then what's going to happen is the groundwater is going to leach and permeate this way, and it's going to eventually come into contact with your basement wall. And that's what we don't want, because we don't want water to find its way ultimately through a porous concrete. Now, of course, it's going to be sealed. We're going to take those precautions, but it's just another added layer of protection. Again, control what we can control. And so we're going to fill it up with gravel, and then what will happen is as that groundwater comes over, then it has a place to go. So the way I would explain this to anybody is if you took two trash cans, right, equal size, and we filled one with basketballs and the other with golf balls. Let's say the basketballs are your gravel and the golf balls represent the clay aggregates. Which one is going to drain first? If we put a hole in the bottom of that trash can and we filled it with water, which one would drain first? I'll let you ponder on that for a second. There you go. So it's going to be the basketballs. Now, why is that? The reason it's going to be the basketballs is because of surface area. The basketballs have much less surface area within that given volume of soil versus the golf balls in that same given volume. There's a lot more surface area. So it's the same as this gravel versus in a given volume versus this clay within a given volume. Okay. And so we're going to fill this cavity with gravel so that when water leaches through or permeates through and it comes to here, it's not going to maneuver and make its way all the way to our basement wall. It's going to hit here, hit this gravel, and it's going to drain. It's going to hit that footer drain, and it's going to go around and escape over there by the sump pump and the natural drain pipe that we're ultimately going to put in. So from my perspective, and again, I'm not an expert, but I can't think that there's anything wrong. It's just safer to go all the way up or most of the way up with your gravel. I think that's how you should probably go about it, and that's something that you should talk to your excavator, your contractor, builder, whoever. That's a conversation that you should have with them. And so maybe I know too much, maybe it's leading me to be paranoid, but that's how I'm going to do it. And then we have one more little project that we're working on today while I'm in the hole. I'm going to show you that right now. So project number 2 today, while we're off work and taking care of business, when they poured the footer, they had this form board set up here along the side, and when they poured that concrete into there, it kind of seeped out underneath and then solidified. Well, what that did was it created a shelf that the footer drain is kind of resting on, and so it's kind of humped up underneath this gravel. You can't really see it right now. My son's actually been down here digging and covered it up with some gravel. So we're going to expose that. I'm glad I caught it. We're going to expose that just a little bit and try to chip away some of that concrete that solidified and then tap down that footer drain just so that water doesn't have to flow uphill when it rounds this corner and then it goes back downhill. We want the whole thing to be running downhill. So I'm going to get something to chip that out, and we're going to try to tamp that down just a tad.
That was muddy on the back.
Yep. Yeah, get that concrete chipped away so I can get this pipe to sit down more. I think when you step on it there, looks like it's down a little too much. Here, I can switch you. You look. Don't you think? Looks like it's sagging a little bit.
It might be an illusion because it's...
But when you step on it right there, it looks good. I think it looks better.
Seeing this here?
Because you can't see it. Huh?
That there's down an inch.
Yeah.
Beyond what that is, probably. When you say?
Yeah, right there. All right, we are done with today's project. That took a couple hours to take care of all the soil around. I think we got it cleaned up pretty good, like I said, within reason. And again, maybe I'm being paranoid. We'll see what happens in the comments section. And then we got this over here taken care of. I think that looks a lot better. And we also have the excavator brought this pump that we could go ahead and put down here in the crock and get rid of some of that excess water. I let it run this morning for about 2 hours, and I think it took everything down. The water was actually up to, I don't know, within 3 or 4 inches of the footer, and we didn't even get that much rain. So that just goes to show you how important that is going to be, to have that running and to have a drain pipe that is able to be used at full capacity in the event of a heavy rainfall. And so I think what we did today was well worth it. And if you like this sort of content, please like and subscribe and stay tuned, because like I said, they're going to be pouring the walls on Thursday, and we'll get our first reveal on Friday, and I'll have all that coming to you soon. Till next time, see y'all. Thank you.